Richard recognizes that the bite from the vine is bringing on a fever. He also notes that it's getting worse and needs to go to Zed for help. Even the next day, Char's warning to seek the answer or die echoes in Richard's mind. Kaylin stops to pick some wildflowers next to a nearby stream as she arranges them in a small scoop-shaped piece of wood. Richard knows about a nearby apple tree, assumes she must be hungry, and goes apple picking. While Kaylin is working on her floral arrangement, Richard fills his backpack half full of apples. Richard finishes picking apples before Kaylin finishes her floral arrangement. After seeing the driftwood floral arrangement float away into a nearby brook, Kaylin tells Richard that she has prepared the flowers as an offering to the good spirits on behalf of their mission and in the memory of their mothers. Kaylin becomes about Richard and asks him what is wrong. Richard lies to her by telling her nothing is the matter and tells her to eat an apple. Kaylin smacks Richard's hand away and grabs him by the throat. Kaylin makes Richard confused by yelling at him, and we're given another instance of Good Kind describing Richard's narration of an outside but unidentified force pulling him to a specific course of action when he says, "Something told him not to move." While Richard wonders if Kaylin just really has a problem with apples, she explains that in the Midlands a spell was cast that made all red fruit poisonous to eat. Immediately after, Richard promises that apples are good to eat, and Kaylin responds by asking Richard if he eats these apples. Richard assures her that he does. Richard takes a bite of the apple still in his hand and convinces her to try some, which she does. Kaylin then finishes her original thought when she puts her hand on Richard's forehead and notes that he's burning with fever. Richard and Kaylin make it to Zed's home. Zed's house is described as a modest in size with a sod-covered roof, complete with a ramp for his old cat to climb on top of it. Zed's cat is described as having a more difficult time getting down than he has going up. We are introduced to Zed's reason chair, a place where he likes to sit while he is trying to figure out the reason for something. Richard remembers the story of the time Zed spent 3 days in his chair trying to figure out why people fight over how many stars they are. He eventually decides it is because anyone can say they are an expert and it is impossible for them to be proven wrong. Zed's conclusion is that men seek the validation of expertise without committing to the diligence of earning such a thing. Since it is unverifiable, it is easy to claim to be an expert and impossible to be proven wrong. We learn after that Zed ate in earnest for 3 hours. Richard and Kaylin walk behind Zed's house and find him standing on a rock, staring into the sky without any clothes on. Zed is described as a thin old man who is a lot tougher than he looks. When Kaylin turns around from embarrassment and Richard picks up Zed's robe to dress him, Zed ignores Richard's attempts to dress him and asks Richard if he knew how he was coming. Richard correctly says that it has something to do with the cloud that has been following him and tells Zed to allow himself to be dressed by him. Instead, Zed tells Richard that the cloud has been following him for the last 3 weeks. He tells us he's been trying to find Richard since his father died. Finally, Richard asks Zed to hold up his arm so he can help him put his robe on. Zed asks Richard if he knew where the cloud was from, and Richard tells him to stop swearing and that he thinks it was from Dahara. Zed accepts Richard's explanation of why he thinks it is from there and concludes that Richard must also know that a cloud from Dahara is bad news. Zed notices that Richard has a fever and asks Richard if he brought him anything to eat. Richard gives Zed an apple and brings the estimated total of apples left in Richard's backpack down to 198. Richard tells Zed he is in trouble while Zed performs a medical examination of Richard. Zed checks Richard's temperature, his eyes, and his pulse. Zed declares that he will be unconscious soon, and Richard asks if Zed will be able to help him. Zed says probably if he can figure out what caused it. Zed makes a dad joke about Kaylin not being a girl or his friend when Richard says Kaylin isn't his girlfriend. Zed recognizes what Kaylin is and becomes angry, pulling his hand away, and when he tries to tell Richard what she is, Kaylin lets him know with her body language that that would be a big mistake. Richard interrupts the exchange between them and tells Zed that Kaylin is his friend and that she has saved his life several times in the last 24 hours. Zed is presented with a choice when Richard asks for his help. When Zed shows reluctant body language, Richard adds that a quad was looking for Kaylin, and even though they got away, she was still in danger. Zed has not yet accepted Kaylin on Richard's word alone, but he does listen to his friend's appeal to reason. Zed releases the emotional attack that was clouding his reason and views her as a human being instead of a faceless threat. Zed tells Kaylin that she will be safe here and invites her into his home to listen to their troubles and tend to Richard's fever. Kaylin says that she has never heard the name Zedekis Z'ul Zorander before, and Zed takes a moment to wink at the camera when he says he's sure that she hasn't. Zed asks Kaylin if she can cook, and she says if Zed helps Richard that she will make him a big pot of spice soup. Zed leads them to a nearby outdoor table and brings all of them a collection of healthy snacks along with some apple juice. Zed gives Richard a mug of something that smells like almonds and tells him to drink it, and asks Richard to tell him about the trouble he is in. We're also reminded again that Kaylin does not like cheese. Zed asks Richard why he was so close to the boundary, and Richard tells him it was to look for a vine that matched the one he found in his father's home. When Zed asks what the vine looked like, Richard pulls the piece he had in his pocket and shows it to him. Zed identifies it as a snake vine, and Richard recalls the name from information he has access to as a keeper of the secret book mentioned several times previously. Zed says that now that he knows how Richard was injured, he will be able to help him if he can find the root that he needs, and asks Kaylin to tell her side of the story, but asks her to keep it short. Kaylin produces the mother of all plot summaries when she says Darkenral, son of Panisral, has put the boxes of Orden into play, and that she is looking for the old wizard. We learn that the secret book is called the Book of Counted Shadows, and that Richard is keeping the knowledge of that book in his mind. He recalls the section of the book that references the snake vine starting to grow as a sign that the boxes of Orden have been put into play. Thank you for watching this episode of Seeking the Truth about the Sword of Truth, Just the Facts. Tune in a couple of days when I will be posting the in-depth analysis of the chapter covered in this episode. If you want to make sure that you remember to come back for the full video, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and enable notifications, and then you won't miss any videos. I would also invite you to join the official Facebook group for Seeking the Truth about the Sword of Truth. Everyone is welcome. All that I ask is everyone who comes remember that everyone is supposed to feel welcome. Thank you for watching, and until we meet again, I hope that you live well. Thank you.